Hello everyone, my name is Laura, and on behalf of the Colorado Department of Revenue, welcome to our August 2023 virtual consumer use tax webinar recording. Thank you for taking the time to learn more about Colorado consumer use tax and how to be voluntarily tax compliant. This webinar covers what consumer use tax is, different types of filing, how to file, and how to amend a return. You can pause and rewind to this video at any time to review the information provided. Let's go ahead and get started. Today's webinar will cover resources and tools to make finding information and being voluntarily tax compliant so much easier. We'll also cover how to file and pay, and have a walkthrough of how to file consumer use tax using Revenue Online. Upon completion of this webinar, you will be able to identify consumer use tax requirements, use different tools and resources that are available to you, and know how to file and pay your tax returns on time. Our motto is to always help, and our mission is to promote voluntary compliance with tax laws through education, assistance, and customer service. When it comes to helping you be voluntarily tax compliant, we are always happy to lend a helping hand. We have a wide variety of resources and tools that are available for you if you ever have questions. We have our websites, taxpayer helpline, our taxpayer email. You can schedule an appointment with a tax examiner at one of our local offices, which are located in Colorado Springs, Denver Metro, Fort Collins, Grand Junction, and Pueblo. All of our local offices are now open to the public via walk-in or appointment, and each of our locations also have drop-off boxes if you need to drop off a form. Please be sure to follow mask mandates that may be in effect in your local area when visiting an office. We also have FYIs and guidance publications. And one of the documents you were able to download prior to this webinar recording was the Colorado Consumer Use Tax Guide, which is designed to provide you with general guidance regarding consumer use tax, taxable property, how to calculate use tax, filing, remittance and record keeping, and refunds and assessments. During today's webinar, we'll reference that guide and tell you where you can find specific information. You'll be able to find many of the answers to your questions regarding consumer use in that document. I'd also like to take a moment to highlight a few other places that you can find us. On LinkedIn, our YouTube channel, which has tutorials and walkthroughs, Facebook, and Instagram, which has weekly tax tips, reminders, and helpful hints to make being voluntarily tax compliant so much easier. Let's begin today's webinar by highlighting the department's family of websites. Your Colorado L.I.F.E, our main website, Tax.Colorado.gov, and Revenue Online. We'll also provide a brief overview of how to find and navigate each in just a moment. Your Colorado L.I.F.E, which stands for Links and Information for Everyone, is an educational website developed by the Colorado Department of Revenue for Colorado residents and contains valuable information on how state taxes are collected and used, how taxes can impact college, career, and even car buying choices, a history of where taxes come from and how they are used, income tax collection and filing, starting a business, and links to federal and state websites. Although it's a great resource for high school and college-age residents, we've found that Colorado residents of all ages visit the website. The content is relevant, engaging, and easily accessible from our website at Tax.Colorado.gov. The department's website address is Tax.Colorado.gov. On our website, you can find information for businesses, individuals, tax professionals, forms by tax type or number, and the latest news. You can also easily access the Colorado State Tax and Fee Due Date Guide directly from our homepage. This guide is an excellent resource for information regarding filing, payment deadlines, methods, and associated forms for both businesses and individual taxes. Scroll to the bottom of the page and under Helpful Links, click Due Date Guide. And right across from the Fee and Due Date Guide at the bottom of the homepage is where you can sign up for email alerts. We also have an ever-expanding how-to tax video library on our website that you can reference if you need help, and all of our videos are also available on our official YouTube channel. To access the video library on our website, go to Tax.Colorado.gov, click the Businesses tab, click on the Tax, Education, and Training tab, and in the Quick Links section, you'll see our video library, which has helpful videos on all tax types. Revenue Online is an administration portal that you can use to make payments, file returns, find sales and use tax rates, locate helpful links that you can use to submit power of attorney documents or e-filer attachments, verify a license or certificate, send us a secure message, and update your mailing address. We also know that understanding tax policy isn't always easy, so the department launched an automated self-service chatbot on Revenue Online that we affectionately named Dory, which stands for Department of Revenue Interactive, to help answer common taxpayer questions. Dory is the bright orange tax owl that roosts at the top of the Revenue Online homepage. Last year, Dory provided over 84,000 chatbot responses to taxpayers' questions, and taxpayers completed over 33,000 actions using Dory. So far in 2023, Dory has provided over 34,000 chatbot responses to taxpayers' questions, and taxpayers have already completed over 50,000 actions using Dory. Dory is a helpful resource whose vocabulary and answers are constantly being refined based on taxpayer feedback. We encourage you to use Dory the next time you visit Revenue Online, and when you do, please provide feedback so we can continue to tailor and improve Dory's information and answers to be more responsive for you. First, let's talk about what consumer use tax is. Consumer use tax must be paid by the purchaser of goods stored, used, or consumed by the purchaser where the seller did not or could not collect sales taxes. Consumer use tax must be paid by individuals and businesses for tangible personal property used in Colorado for personal or business purposes, not to be resold when tax was not paid at the time of purchase. This includes items taken out of inventory for personal or business use. That was a lot of information, so what does it really mean? Let's look at an example. You own a salon, run out of shampoo, and need to grab some from your display to use on a customer. Since you originally purchased the shampoo at wholesale for your inventory, you'll now need to pay consumer use tax on it, as the shampoo was purchased wholesale, taken out of inventory, and used for business and not sold to the customer. There are some easy ways to tell if you paid sales tax on a product. Check your invoice, reach out to the vendor if you are unsure, or ask yourself if you took anything out of inventory. Let's take a look at consumer use tax accounts. Consumer use tax accounts do not require an application. To open a consumer use account and submit a return, Revenue Online will need the following information: your taxpayer name, ID number, which can be a Social Security number, SSN, Individual Taxpayer Identification Number, ITIN, Federal Employer Identification Number, FEIN, or Colorado Account Number, CAN. Revenue Online will also need your mailing address and the purchase details. Remember, you will need to file use tax for items you purchased wholesale that were used for the business and not sold to a customer to collect tax. Now let's take a look at jurisdiction types. There are two jurisdiction types for state collected use tax, Colorado state tax, and special district tax. Special district tax includes RTD/CD use with the paper form DR 0252 and RTA use with the paper form DR 0251. So, why do jurisdictions matter? Tax rates are determined by the point of possession of the consumer, meaning you will pay the tax at the point of purchase of the untaxed item. There are also consumer tax types that are not collected by the department. For information on local use tax collected on building materials and motor vehicles, you can consult the DR 1002 Colorado Sales Use Tax Rates or contact the local jurisdiction directly. The DR 1002 Colorado Sales Use Tax Rates contains current tax rates, service vendor fee information, the exemptions key, which contains allowances listed by jurisdiction, RTD, CD, and special district tax rates, city tax rates, which are state collected, county tax rates, which are state collected, and here's a helpful hint. The DR 1002 is where you can find the contact information for all home rule self-collecting cities. You can find it on our website at Tax.Colorado.gov under the Forms tab on the homepage under Forms by Tax Type or Forms in Number Order. You can use Control F on your keyboard and enter the form number to locate it quickly. Now let's take a look at filing for consumer use tax. Consumer use tax for individuals is due April 15th. Individuals that owe consumer use tax will file it on individual income tax returns, which is why it has the same due date of April 15th. If the 15th falls on a Saturday, Sunday, or legal holiday, the return and tax remittance is due the next business day. For businesses and other legal entities, here's an important note. The due date depends on the amount of tax owed. If your business accrued less than $300 of total consumer use tax over the course of a year, then the business must file an annual use tax return. The annual use tax return is due by January 20th of the following year. This is referred to as casual filing. What if you accrued more than $300? Well, let's take a look. If the cumulative use tax owed at the end of any month is more than $300, then the business must file a monthly return. Monthly returns are due the 20th of the month, following the month when the use tax due has met or surpassed $300. For example, if my business surpassed $300 in August and sales tax was not collected, then my consumer use tax return is due the 20th of September, which is the 20th of the month, following the month when the use tax met or surpassed $300. So generally speaking, the more sales tax you collect and owe, the more frequent your filing becomes. We've talked about filing frequency, so you may be wondering, how do I file a consumer use tax return? The next section will review the different ways that you can file a consumer use tax return, in addition to a walkthrough to better help you understand your filing options. The two main ways to file a consumer use tax return are using the paper form DR 0252 and Revenue Online. Let's take a closer look at both of these methods. You can file a consumer use tax return without logging into your Revenue Online account. Individuals may file this on income tax returns at the end of the year for any items purchased for personal use. For example, if you purchased a video game from an online retailer and were not charged tax at the time of the purchase, you can file this on your individual income tax return. Individuals operating a sole proprietorship are required to follow business rules for purchases made for business use. This means that if I pull shampoo from inventory to use on a customer, I cannot file this on my individual income tax return. This would need to be filed separately using the form DR 0252 or Revenue Online. In this next section, I'll show you how to file a consumer use tax return using Revenue Online. To file a consumer use tax return using Revenue Online, start at Tax.Colorado.gov. Place your cursor over Online Services in the top menu bar and click Help with Online Services. Next, click Visit ROL. Once you've arrived at Revenue Online, scroll down and locate the Sales and Use Tax menu tile and click File a Consumer Use Tax Return. In the Consumer Use Tax Filing Period box, use the drop-down option and indicate the time frame when the last purchase being filed for occurred. For my example, I'm going to select 2018 and following. I'd like to take a moment and highlight that consumer use tax must only be paid by individuals and businesses on purchases that did not include Colorado sales tax. Once you've taken a moment to review the information needed to continue, go ahead and click the blue Continue button at the bottom of the page. On the Web Consumer's Use Return, you'll fill out your taxpayer information. First, select the ID type you'll be using with the drop-down menu and fill out your ID information. Here, you'll notice that there are 4 different ID types. You can use your Colorado account number, or CAN, Federal Employer Identification Number, or FEIN, which you can get from IRS.gov. You can use an Individual Taxpayer Identification Number, or ITIN, or Social Security Number, SSN. I'm going to use my FEIN, also known as an EIN. Then, complete the taxpayer information and mailing address section. Once you've completed both sections, click the blue Next button at the bottom of your screen. As you can see, we've now arrived at the Business Purchase Information page. Here, you'll enter the last date of the purchase that is shown on the invoice and the purchase amount in each jurisdiction where the use tax is due. The system will automatically calculate the total amount of use tax that is due. Let's say I made a purchase on June 1st, 2023. I'll go ahead and select that date. In the state of Colorado, I made a purchase for $100, and the purchase also happened to be in an RTD CD district, so I need to put $100 on both of those lines as well. If you need to determine the jurisdiction where your purchase was made, you can use the Geographic Information System, GIS, which is also available on the Online Services page of our website. Consumer use tax is only collected for certain RTA districts, and using the GIS will help you determine which regional transportation district you are in, so that you can include the appropriate jurisdictions in your return. For your convenience, the GIS is also available on the My Colorado app. As you can see, Revenue Online is beginning to do the math for me. Once all the information on this page has been filled out, go ahead and click the blue Next button at the bottom of your screen. We are now at the summary screen. This will provide you with the total amount of purchases, total tax due, any penalty and interest that would be estimated by the system, and the total amount due after any penalties and interest. Go ahead and click Next at the bottom of the screen. In order to confirm and submit your consumer use return, read the statement by checking the box below, "I declare under penalty of perjury that this return is true, correct, and complete given all known information," and click the "I agree" box and click Submit. A final confirmation box will pop up, and you must enter and confirm your email address and click OK to finalize your return submission. Your email serves as your signature for this return. On the confirmation page, there is a filing ID number. We recommend that you print this out for your records. If you have a balance due, go ahead and click the blue Make a Payment button at the bottom of your screen. The next page will bring you to your payment options, and you'll select the one that works best for you. You can use Revenue Online Direct Debit, which requires you to log in, debit or credit card, e-check, or cryptocurrency. If you have previously filed a consumer use tax return and have a Revenue Online account login, you can file future consumer use returns by logging into your account. The alternative method to filing using Revenue Online is the paper form DR-0252. This form can be accessed from our website, Tax.Colorado.gov, under the Forms tab. If you use this method, be sure to include the purchase invoice detail when mailing the consumer use tax return. Colorado businesses and individuals must pay any applicable RTA consumer use tax for the storage, use, or consumption of any tangible personal property within the RTA boundaries if the business or individual did not pay sales tax at the time the property was purchased. That was a lot of tax jargon, so let's break it down. In other words, if you used, stored, or consumed an item in an RTA district but did not pay sales tax when you purchased the item, you must now pay any applicable RTA consumer use tax for that item. For example, let's say Dory purchased a hat from a company outside of Colorado. The company did not collect state or local tax on her purchase. Since she uses the hat in an RTA district, she has to pay the RTA and state use taxes for her area. To complete an RTA consumer use tax return, you can fill out and mail the paper form DR-0251. Individuals and businesses can also report and pay consumer use tax and applicable RTA consumer use taxes electronically on Revenue Online. We've discussed how to file a return, and you may be wondering how to amend a previously filed return. We've got you covered. In this next section, we'll cover how to amend a return. There is only one way to amend a return, and that is by using the paper form DR-0252 and DR-0251 if applicable. Amended returns cannot be filed through Revenue Online. To amend a return, you must complete the form DR-0252. The form must be filled out in its entirety. Now, I want to pause here and take a moment to highlight a very important step that many people miss. You must check the box indicating that it is an amended return in order to avoid duplicate filings. Once this is complete, you may either mail the form and payment, if needed, to the address on the form, or simply drop it off at a local service center. We have service centers in Denver Metro, Fort Collins, Colorado Springs, Grand Junction, and Pueblo. All of our local offices are now open to the public via walk-in or by appointment, and each of our locations also have drop-off boxes if you need to drop off a form. Please be sure to follow mask mandates that are in effect in your local area when visiting an office. The amended return must show all tax columns as corrected, not merely the differences. A separate return is required for each amended return as you are replacing the original return filed. The amendment must be done for the period that the overpayment or underpayment occurred and not on a future period. As a reminder, amended consumer use tax returns cannot be filed through Revenue Online. We've shown you how to amend a return. Now let's look at the 2 ways to submit a claim for refund. The first way is by using Revenue Online, which reduces errors and saves time. The second option is to fill out the paper form DR 0137. This can be submitted by mail or dropped off at a local service center. Now that we've shown you how to claim a refund, you may be wondering, how do I pay consumer use tax? This next section will cover 5 methods you can use to pay consumer use tax. You can pay consumer use tax using a paper check or money order. If you are paying for consumer use tax, you can mail your check or drop off the return with your payment and paper form DR 0252 to a service center. All service centers currently have secure drop boxes for you to drop off a form. You can pay using a debit credit card on Revenue Online. There is a 2.25% plus a 75-cent processing fee. You can also pay using an e-check in Revenue Online, which has a $1 processing fee. Direct debit requires a login and there is no processing fee. Cryptocurrency is also an option using Revenue Online and has a $1 plus 1.83% processing fee of the payment amount. We are happy to lend a helping hand. There are a wide variety of resources and tools that are available for you to use if you ever have questions. We have our websites, Taxpayer Helpline, our taxpayer email. You can schedule an appointment with a tax examiner at one of our local offices, which are located in Colorado Springs, Denver Metro, Fort Collins, Grand Junction, and Pueblo. All of our local offices are now open to the public via walk-in appointment, and each of our locations also have drop-off boxes if you need to drop off a form. We also have our FOIs and guidance publications. The dates and values used in this recording are for illustration purposes only. Tax rates are subject to change over time. Again, my name is Laura, and I'd like to thank you for your kind attention and for taking time out of your day to join me and learning more about Colorado consumer use tax. I hope I gave you a clearer picture of how to be voluntarily tax compliant. It was my pleasure to serve you. Thank you.